Hello everyone, how are you today? I'm going to teach you guys about palmistry. This is an ancient subject. It's been around for thousands of years. Palmistry is older than Jesus and many of the world religions. It was practiced heavily throughout history, whether it would be Chinese medicine, they use it to diagnose illnesses. In India, it's very useful and widespread, and they go into quite a lot of depth, especially around the thumb. But yeah, it's been talked about by philosophers, great philosophers. Aristotle mentioned its power, and it was studied in university in the Renaissance times. It's ancient. It's ancient, and it's been practiced for a long time. One of the things that I am feeling really compelled to do is share it in a way that's new, at least from what I've seen. And I really do believe this. A lot of people, if you study palmistry at all, or if you are getting into the topic, you might find that there are so many sweeping generalizations. That was one of the things that when I was first doing a lot of research on palmistry, I would come to find is you would find things that say, if this finger's crooked, that means that somebody's a criminal. No, definitely not. I see palmistry extremely deeply and on a personal level. And it's not exact. Everybody reads differently. Every palmist reads differently. We have the map. It's how we interpret it individually that matters. And not to say that it's inaccurate to interpret it differently. It's not inaccurate. I was at a convention, the Northwest Tarot Symposium, and I met two other palm readers at this event. And it was one of the coolest things I've ever experienced because we were in a little triangle and we all had our palms out and we were comparing and reading each other's palms together. And one thing that I noticed is that we each read very differently, but when they would read, just like tarot, just like really anything, we have a different vision. We have different frame of reference and different beliefs in general. But yeah, so with this situation, I was finding that we were all giving very accurate readings. Everything that I was hearing from these women were spot on, and I could see by the way that they were using the map how they were seeing that, even though I look at things in a different way. Like I read more personality, emotions, but some people read more health. Some people read more physical things or life patterns or, children or whatever, and they read it accurately. So just because somebody might read a little bit differently, it's still valid. So that is what I would like to tell you about how people read palmistry. So, moving on to this here. This is a map. If you look at your hands, most people are going to have at least 2 lines. More often than not, they have at least 3 lines, and then many times they have 4 lines or more. But I'll go over that and I'll show you what the different lines are, what they mean, and kind of what I'm talking about. So the first line that is a pretty much solid go-to that people are going to have, even if it doesn't look like it exactly, is going to be the lifeline. And that's going to be here. So I hope it's focusing. But this is the lifeline, the line that goes from the base of your hand up and towards this middle part between your forefinger and your thumb. This line is mostly talking about discussing your life path, the energy that you physically put into life, People that have a really deep lifeline mostly are going to be, more often than not, they're going to have a lot of vitality and life force and energy that they put into physical life. So that could mean on the lifeline, that could show, um, oh, by the way, if you have a parallel line to your lifeline, usually that's indicative of a person who is important to you, somebody who's had an effect on you. And it could be a sibling. Usually it's known as a sibling line if you have a parallel line to your lifeline here. That's because it's somebody who's been with you for a lot of your life or many years of your life. So that's what's known as a sibling line. But yes, it follows life path, like life circumstance. Sometimes the fate lines, line of fate here, that's a straight line, mostly going towards your middle finger. But in the way that I read, a fate line is any line that goes towards really any of the fingers, because it's like showing where your energy is going in terms of your goals, ambitions, and how your energy moves. So yes, basically in the lifeline, you can see how much energy you're putting towards living versus maybe your headline or your heart line, right? The most deep lines or the most profound formations is really what's going to stand out the most for you in your life. So with this lifeline, for instance, like right now, if I'm looking at my lifeline, I can see that in the last, like, right where this boo-boo was, right here, in the last, like, half of my life, to me it looks potentially a little bit, I don't want to say this, more chaotic because of the interruptions and the interference in that lifeline. That's any lines that are kind of going sideways or through it. That can be discontinuations in the line or any interruptions in its formation. But yeah, so if I'm looking at this right now, to me it looks like this part is a little bit darker, or it's more noticeable to me right now. So to me that means that basically later in life, I might be putting more energy, more of my life force and vitality might go towards building life or daily needs, right? So that's how the lifeline works. Next, we can talk about, okay, so you remember how I said people have at least that lifeline, right? And then some people will have, I said 2 lines, and it's not very common. Like most people are going to have 3 lines or more. But for that 2-line hand, not common, not common. So look at your hands right now. If you see this, you may be one of these people that have, I almost want to say like Muppet hands, and I don't mean that in a mean way or anything, but it's just kind of like a puppet hand to me, because these 2-line people they have the lifeline, which is here, right? And then they'll have a line that connects both the headline and the heart line. So that's the heart line is here, and then the headline is here. So usually the heart line is going to be running on the top of your hand from somewhere underneath your pinky across the top. It could swoop up, it could go straight across, right? The headline is going to be this middle line. Most of the time, headlines are kind of more separate than mine are from your heart line, right? So you've got a line that's going to be going from about here and then across. That's your headline. Sometimes a simian line is what combines, it will be one combined head and heart line. So you've got a lifeline, and then you've got a simian line, which is head and heart together. These people, you can tell that they're unique. You can tell that they have something a little bit different going on in how they live in the world. So if you look at it through a palmistry perspective, this is going to be somebody who, okay, one important caveat, a really important caveat, no matter what with palmistry, is that every time it's not about generalizations. If you saw on the internet, if you have this kind of finger, this means, don't go, I would not go with that. I would definitely always read the individual as a whole. Read the whole story, look at the different parts of the hand, because, somebody could say, well, they have a short pinky finger, which is the Mercury finger, the finger of communication. And so if you have a very withdrawn Mercury finger, that's going to mean you might withhold or hold back your communication, right? So you could have a short Mercury finger, but if you look online and it's like, well, that just means you're bad at communicating, more often than not, the energy will be bigger somewhere else. The energy is going to go or be displaced, like move somewhere else. So what could be perceived as a, something that's not good per se, I believe that there's always going to be another place that person has strength. People that are really quiet, of course they have strengths and skills. So where does that show up, and what else do we see in their palm? It's really important to look at. So anyway, with that, okay, so when I said the caveat, always read the individual, not by the book, what the book says, every little thing, because you get lost in the details and not the person. We're looking at a human with a huge history. So it's important to see them as that, a whole picture. That said, when we look at the simian line, most of the time, that's going to be somebody who, see, it's like I've read it different ways before. I've seen simian lines in people before, more than one person with simian lines, but they don't mean the same thing. This is why you have to read it individually and differently. But one person, for instance, whose simian line I saw, it was like they had a, okay, let me think if I can bring this memory back here. Basically, it was hard to distinguish thought from feeling. They would each kind of come in, and it wouldn't necessarily be one and then the other. It's almost like both energies kind of talking at the same time, and it's in like a crowded room, so it's a little hard to hear. That was the sense that I got from her palms. But you could also have somebody with a simian line that's like, maybe they're kind of floating in the middle, or they do perceive both thought and emotion in different ears, so to speak. So it can play out in many different ways, multitude of ways. All right, so then next is going to be the headline. So again, that's the one going through the middle of the hand. Horizontal line going through the middle of the hand, between the heart line and the lifeline. So the headline is super fascinating, as well as the heart line. Looking at those two individually tells you so much about a person and how they process emotion. It tells you about for the heart line specifically, their whole emotional journey. It will tell you about their whole emotional journey. So, for instance, one thing that many of us, especially in our little light worker squad community, we often have this indication in the beginning, and it's like so again, read it individually, because I've seen this a similar formation, but it can indicate different things. So most of the time on your heart line, if you have it's all a timeline. Every line on the hand is a timeline. So if you look at the beginning, so this is the beginning of the heart line, and this is the end. And if you look at the beginning in the early years of our life when we were little, think about how we came into this world, and it's a very dense reality. It's like so intense here sometimes. So when we come in, generally speaking, think about how pure of a spirit children have. So on this heart line, a lot of times with light workers specifically, we'll see X's along the beginning. So X, 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 right? Just in the beginning, like slashes, X's. Another formation you can see is chevrons. Chevrons are like this. It's like an arrow. So you can see that sometimes going like in this direction on the heart line. Generally speaking, X's are a difficulty or something that's painful. To me, it's like it kind of like gets you in the heart. It kind of strikes you in the heart. So when we have these X's, it's like this is um, a struggle. This is something difficult. This is something hard on my heart because it's on the heart line, right? And oftentimes, this in the beginning is just kind of referring to, in a nutshell, you could say a difficult childhood or one in which you were very emotionally like hurt at times. So same as the lifeline, same as any lines, same as any formations, when you're looking at how deep the lines are, that's where most of your energy is going. So for instance, if you have a person who has a very deep lifeline, but not a deep heart line, mostly that person's going to be more concerned with physical reality and building their life or doing the daily kind of grind, so to speak. If somebody has a deep heart line or a deep headline, that's more going to mean that they're a person who's here to think or to really use their mind, or they put a lot of energy towards their mind. And with the heart line, same. It's like if it's a really deep, really profound line, then that's really going to be somebody who's here to work on their emotions and somebody who's here to work on their relationships, or they put a lot into that. So the pattern that we're seeing is the thicker the lines, the more concentration of energy. Same with the mounts. Mounts are going to be anything that's like a bump on the hand. So that's going to be, I'll give you a tour of the hand. This is the mount of Venus. This is the mount of Luna, lunar mount. The mount of Mercury, the mount of Apollo, the mount of Saturn. Sorry. This is the Saturn mount. This is the mount of Jupiter, and this is like the plane of Mars. But also, this area is the mount of Mars in between the Mercury mount and the lunar mount. So sometimes, if somebody has like a propensity for a lot of physical activity, or if they want to like process things through physical action, or if it's like a big part of their lives, or if they have like a lot of that kind of vitality, the Mars mount will be often like rounded out, like in between these two on the side of the hand. It'll be kind of more kind of puffy. So we're seeing this pattern of the energy kind of being more focused on the areas of I guess it's like the areas of the hand that are more pronounced, or where the lines are deeper, are showing where somebody's energy is and how they use it. So so start to pay attention to and implement these different parts of this palm reading that you've now been introduced to, and look at your own palms and just start to put these things into practice and start to see how are these things showing up on your palms. And we'll talk soon, and I'll share a little bit more about the different lines and whatnot. But I think that there's a good amount of information to chew on right now. So take that, see how it applies to you, and there's a lot to discover. So stick around, and I'll bring in more info for you very soon. And we're going to get to use this amazing information. One of the things that I find to be the most profound about palm reading is how affirming it is. Some people have felt a certain way their whole lives and have never been able to say it or express it. But when I read their palms, when they start to learn this stuff, they're affirmed in a way that, like, it just gives them so much more faith in themselves. So yeah, try it on, see what you can find, see what sticks for you, and see what you can learn. Look at the information in your hands and see what it's telling you. So we'll talk again soon, and I'll get a little bit more into detail next time with different aspects of the palms. So much love, and I hope you enjoy your day. Take care.